Shalom, greetings once again. I am Gladys Mutunga, and as I promised that I will be bringing episodes from my life, mainly derived from my book which I wrote and which turned out to be a great inspiration to the people who read it, Snatched from the Jaws of Hell. The purpose of doing this is because of the series that I've been going on with in YouTube, the seed of the Word of God, because it has shaped my life, and you can only know how it has shaped my life if you get to know the genesis, the origin of my life. Because if I just tell you the word did this and this, you cannot know unless I have given you a background, because I intend to bring the impact that it has made on my life. So to my story, I'll be doing this every third week. We'll be having the word for 3 weeks, and then the fourth week I'll be bringing an episode of my life, unless maybe something changes along the way. Okay, I'm Gladys Mutunga. I am the firstborn daughter of Mr. and Mrs. David Mutunga. I come from Machakos. But I was born, actually I can say, a basis of church. I had a very good religious background of a Protestant church. And from when I was young, I loved anything to do with the church. I used to go to Sunday school. I used to sing in the choir. And this continued. I learned the word so much. Actually, I had a vast knowledge of the Bible, but without revelation, of course. And so my life began to take a turn when I went to Nairobi. I was staying with one of my relatives. And I had gone there when I was in Form 3. And around that time, when I was getting to the final year, I met the father of my son. And I fell head over heels. He swept me off my feet. And we eloped. Actually, when I was just about to sit for the exams, and we eloped. That is how I felt. The love was so strong. And somehow, I would say somehow, because I asked God for a child. I prayed. I loved this man so much that I desired to have a child with him. And as fate would have it, which I thank God that I did, I got a son with him. But before I gave birth, we went to his home place. Remember, this man had promised me the whole earth. He had promised to marry me. And when he took me to his home place, well, for some reasons, the parents did not embrace me. Well, they said that girl cannot be married here. Remember, at that moment, I was 20 years, heavily pregnant, and with no experience in life. I was very naive, and I was very gullible. And so when I experienced that rejection, I went back home. But I remember I didn't go directly home. I was quite discouraged because he changed, his attitude towards me changed. And I went directly, I took myself somehow to Machakos Hospital. And I remember my mother looking for me, really panicking, wondering maybe this girl can do something, can harm herself because of this rejection. But I was admitted in Machakos General Hospital. They said I had stress, and they treated me, and I went back to my home place. I thank God my parents received me well. They embraced the child to date. is their own child. They embraced him. And so after a year, I left for Nairobi because the son had adapted to being brought up by my mother. He could eat well, and he had even stopped suckling. So I went to Nairobi, and my experiences with the word actually began those days, even before I was saved. I remember looking for work in Nairobi. Remember that time I'm just a young girl, I'm just 21 years, and I am looking for a job. I had no one to run to. I had no one to help me on the same. And I visited a service. There was a grace hour near Jericho there, Jogoo Road. And I remember the servants of God praying and saying that this week somebody is going to receive a miracle. And I did believe. And it was like Tuesday or on Wednesday. And by Friday, I had gotten a job at an industrial area. Actually, it was selected maybe on a weekly basis, sometimes on a daily basis, depending on the demand. And so I went to Nairobi. Remember, at that time, I had no place to stay. I went to Nairobi, Makongeni area, because it was industrial area near Makongeni area. And I was subletted a kajamfi. We used to call it a kajamfi. Somebody would have a house, a bigger house, and then they would let you a small place where it is supposed to be a cooking area. It is a small place where it would fit a bed, and then there is a slab where you will put your stove and your utensils. But then all the other things, the clothes, the basins, and everything, you would put them under the bed. That is how I began in Nairobi. And actually, before I even received the first wage, I even slept on cartons. But that didn't matter. As long as I had a place, I would call my own, and I would wake up from going to this place of work. And so as we continued, I invited one of my relatives. I like when I see something good, I also bring others along with me. I brought one of my relatives who was also a friend. And we began, I even introduced them to where I was working. As time went by, we began experiencing demonic operations. This began at night, especially at night. Well, she would mention to me once or twice it had happened to her, but for me, at night I would be choked. I would wake up screaming, or sometimes I would feel a very heavy burden on top of pressing me. Actually, it would feel like tons of weight pressing you, and at that time you are really fighting for your life. And at that moment you don't know what to do. And may I surprise you, I had a Bible. I remember the people saying if you sleep with a Bible under your pillow, you will not experience these demonic attacks. But let me surprise you that the moment I put a Bible under my pillow, that is when the attacks would intensify actually. That is the time I would be tormented the whole of the night. And so I remember one time some brethren from a Pentecostal church passed by our house. It was like a small one, but I remember they sat on the bed and they preached to us. My relative was more stuck on the religion they were attending. She did not receive Jesus, but I did. That is where I began having the first divine experiences. Something happened. While I was making the Lord's Prayer, I actually felt the presence of Jesus. The presence of Jesus that I have continued to experience for 25 years. And I did the prayer and I prayed, and at that moment, you know, the relief that you feel, the attacks stopped, but it was only temporal, because I had a man who was a supervisor actually where we were working, and the first thing that happened is I had not gone to any church, so I did not get counsel. And I continued the relationship I had with this man. And so the hell broke loose. I'd given my life to Christ, but I went back now to living the same way I was living with this man. You forget that you confess Jesus as your Lord, and you are still relating with this man the same way you were relating with him earlier. And everything went south from that moment. A man that we had related for 2 to 3 years, all of a sudden did not want me. He was not interested in me. Consequently, I could not continue now with that job. Something had happened. I fell out with whoever was recruiting us on a weekly. And I remember attempting several things in life. I remember even one of the men gave me a capital to begin a business. Because remember, I was trying to look for jobs and no jobs were opening for me. And I tried to recall. Let me quote something for you before I continue, because I came to realize it later. At this particular moment, when I was continuing with the job, we used to send my relatives, who are the parents of this relative I was staying with. And we used to send, sometimes weekly, we would send monies to my parents, and it was their mother that we would send. And I would send a lot of money given what I was earning that time. Because remember, I had left my child with my parents at home. And so one time, the parents of this relative asked her, why does Gladys send more money than you? Don't you people work in the same place? And they told her, Gladys has a supervisor. He gives her money. She gets all these favors. And at one point, I had lost a garment, an inner garment, actually, for that matter. And I looked for it. I really searched for it in the house. Remember, it is even like a smaller house. So where is it getting lost in that small place? So now, after that, now that is now when things began going haywire. Remember, I am a person who had confessed Jesus, and now I have backslid. And now that has opened a door for attacks. And during this time, I attempted to do everything. The relative is there. She was still working where I took her. She would give everybody whatever report she would give there, how I am suffering. And I tried several things which did not materialize. And there is one thing before I mentioned the other seeds of the words of men. I said this episode will be about the seeds of the word of men. I remember when I was getting out in the morning going to look for jobs, some men there began calling me street girl. I had not been exposed to any such kind of life. But now remember, those are words that have been spoken by men, and they have sunk into my life. So after a duration of struggling, and something happened that had not happened to me. It had not come into my mind. And after this man left me, I felt so forsaken. I felt so rejected. Remember, everything is working against me. Nothing is working. The whole world actually seemed like it is against me. I really was hurt. I felt bitter. And everything around that area would remind me of him. I had a heartbreak, a serious one. And I still needed to move on because he had also moved on with another person. And so one time I'm seated and I thought that had not even came into my mind. And I said that now this has happened. I thought to me the world had like come to an end. And I said, I will go far to a place where nobody knows me. And I will go and get destroyed there. And the monies I had rescued from the capitals because the businesses were not picking up, I took some money and I took parcel of clothes, just a handful, and I left. I did not tell the relative I was staying with her where I went. I did not tell my mother. By then there were no phones. We are talking of 1997. There were no phones. And I didn't even write a letter and send to these people. I just wanted to go away and disappear into the thin air. Little did I know that there were words of men that had been declared to that effect using that garment that I was looking for, and I could not get. I came to know it after I got saved. And so I got into a train, I boarded, and I came to Mombasa because right now I'm in Mombasa. Remember, I don't know anybody in Mombasa. And even if I said I will come, even if I will go to the bars and do what, I did not even have an idea where I will begin. In any case, I needed a base. So I landed in Changamwe. And somehow people were good in those days. I remember I stood at one shop and I saw a lady passing. And I called her. I asked her, do you know so and so? Remember, it's not even true. I wanted to initiate a conversation. And she said, no, I don't know them. I told her, he told me to meet him here and now I cannot find him. I am stranded. What do you do? And you know the people of the world are normally very, very, very good. They are very accommodating, if I can put it in that way. And so she asked me, where are you coming from? I told her we were speaking the same language. So she took me to her place. She accommodated me, and she watched me for 2 days. She left me in the house as she went out at night. She never told me anything. The third day, she looks at me and now she tells me, you cannot continue sleeping. We have to go out now. We show you how we make our living. Well, I still don't know why I was naive at that time. Nothing came into my mind. But I dressed and we went. We went to a bar. It used to be popular at that time in Changamwe. We went and we sat in a bar. A religious a choir singing girl like me. I had never envisioned that. Even though now, remember, there was a word that had been spoken to me, a negative word. And it must take course. And now I am under influence of a word that was not only made by one person, but this was done by 2 or 3 people, very close people to me, relatives actually, who had gone to an extent of going to a witch doctor, actually in a far place from Nairobi, whereby they went and held hands and bound themselves, that this Kagal, who now wants to show us that she can help her mother more than our daughters are helping us, we want to show her that that cannot happen as long as they live. And they held hands, and the witch doctor proclaimed me as lost as an arrow that has been aimed to a wild beast. That is the words they used in my language. And so, remember, I was never to return again, according to their words. These are not just words. As I continue with my series, we'll get to a point where we will see that words are not just words. There is no word that is void. Every word has got a spirit backing it, and every word is powerful. And so, remember, these are people that I have not offended. These are people that I respect and I honor. These are people whom I have ate with, whom I call my people. And the power of words. They not only made sure that I had been sent to where I have been sent, but they made sure to take word to my mother. And they said to her these words: "You feel like you have a beautiful daughter, let us see her build you a big house there." Those are words with a meaning. Why are they saying that? Because they know they have cast you away, so that wherever you go, you will die there. And they were happy. And my mother, for all that time he was seeking me, they had bound themselves with a covenant that nobody will ever tell my mother where I am. And they are the same. They even didn't know, actually. They kept coming to my mother asking her, "Do you know where so and so is?" And she would say, "I don't know." And the same people would in turn turn and begin mocking her, saying, "She does eat food and get full without even knowing where her child is." Can you imagine? People that you have not offended, relatives. And they are doing that to a parent who has got only 2 children. I am born, it's me and my brother, whom we have a difference of 10 years. Now my son became like the third child in our family. And so, remember, I am now under the influence of these words. So I am led to this bar. We sit with this lady. Is also making connections. I'll say connections. They bought beers for us, but I didn't drink. That first day, I remember, I didn't drink. I just took soda. And at the end of the day, you are supposed to go with one of the men. But something happened that night that the man that I was assigned to, I told her, "Me, I'm not interested," because of course I believed that you must love somebody to be able to get intimate with them. But I recall we went to their houses. They were the civil servants. The houses were the government houses opposite where the slum is. And she went with her man. And I remember this man allowed me to sleep on his sofa, and he slept on the bedroom. He had no issue. Actually, even in the morning, I remember him giving me monies. After that, I went to the house, and the lady was so angry that I had refused to comply, and she chased me. Now remember, she's chasing me. I don't also know where to go. I was with her in a very few days. And then, but then they had mentioned Mtwapa, where ladies would go and get white men, and how they would, they call it punching, how you break through, how you make it in life. And I decided now that is what I want to do. I want to get a white man who would get me out of this country and take me outside and alleviate all these poverty and all these problems. And so with the monies that I had gotten, I don't even think I took the clothes from her house. I left from Twapa. And then I landed at Cheers. It's along Mombasa, Malindi Highway. Upon landing there, I told you when a new phase arrives in those bars, they are embraced. Somehow a white man saw me and he bought me a beer. This is where the story gets funny. And as we were taking the beer, another lady came. She seemed more experienced. And then she just greeted this man. I don't know if she hugged him. And all of a sudden, the man changed the mind. And he faced to her and he told me, now you can have the beer that I bought you. Now I want to be with this one. And as I was still being shocked, the ladies who were around told me, you cannot manage in this venture with such an attitude. If you will continue to be soft, you have to be aggressive. You have to be radical, because it's a man actually, a society kind of outside there. They told me that is what happens. If they see that you are naive, they have they have been given some powers by their witch doctors. They will just touch the white man and all of a sudden he will turn their attention to them. And so that is what happened. I was in Mtwapa with no house. And there I stayed actually for like 2 weeks. Remember that time you don't have a house. At night you are in the clubs. In the morning we will go to the beach and sleep there, imagine, so that in the evening you may also look for a place where you can bathe and then now get to the club again. I cannot say how God continued to protect me even despite everything. I cannot say I ever slept hungry. God would give me even favors with these, we call them beach boys, because they are the ones who would enable to connect you with a Mzungu. They would speak with those who spoke the foreign languages. And I would eat, and somehow dress, and somehow sleep. But then as I wind up this episode, and now I took a journey to Watamu in pursuit of Mzungu. And that is now where I began getting into the dark world. I'll be bringing this in episode 2 of my testimony. Stay with me as I intend to build, to encourage, and to inspire somebody. God bless you.